Okay, as we're recording, I'm going to share my screen. Right, and now we will do the presentation. Okay, good afternoon. Thanks again for all those who are here to participate. This is the grade 2 session for the Wappingers Central School District Reopening Parent Forum. This is intended to be an hour-long session where we're going to try and get through these slides as quickly as we can, answer as many questions as we can, and then whatever questions we are not able to answer, cannot answer, don't have time to answer, we will get the answers within the next 2 or 3 days and post it on our website. So again, my name is Darren Lokema, Assistant Superintendent for the Wappingers Central School District. On behalf of our District Superintendent, Mr. Jose Carrion, we'd like to welcome you to this session. I'm going to co-present today with our Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction, Dr. Michelle Cardwell. So she'll be jumping in to do some of these slides as well. So thank you for your time. I hope that you find this informative. We're going to go through a couple of introductory slides, give you a sense as to as to why and how we made the decision that we did to start with opening school year with remote learning. Provide answers some of the most commonly asked questions that came from the parent survey. The parent survey questions that were asked were very helpful in helping us understand what it is that you as a community need more information on, and then also to provide you an opportunity to ask additional questions based on either what is shared this afternoon or with regard to any aspect of the reopening plan that this presentation does not address. So hopefully we can answer 99% of your questions and provide answers to the ones that we cannot at a very, very near but in the future date. I'm going to start off with a couple of slides that just talk about what the state education website has highlighted for us as actionable items, things that we must consider as we go to remote and hybrid learning for the fall. The first would be just that essentially from a teaching and learning perspective, if we're not doing 100% in-person classes, and we'll talk about why that is in a little bit, the one thing, the fourth bullet down that the state really wanted to highlight was that we have to ensure that there's substantial daily interaction between teachers and students. So we're going to make sure that in our remote learning and hybrid learning plan, we really define what that actually is going to be. The state's giving us some flexibility in terms of work, a number of minutes per week that would be normally required for, let's say, our high school courses can have some flexibility there. Normally, we actually do 230 to 240 minutes per week for every high school full year course. The minimum is 180 minutes, so we usually far exceed that. But we're going to we get some flexibility there, some flexibility in delivery of physical education, some flexibility in how we provide hands-on labs. I'm going to go, I know that this is a grade 2 presentation, so I'll definitely take a little more time, and so will Dr. Cardwell on the elementary side, but just in case there are parents who are here who couldn't make another session and wanted to join this one, we're going to make sure we cover all the material in the slide, just so you know that. Another component about from the state website that is important for us to be aware of is that we need to take into account students' social and emotional well-being. Schools have had to adapt to this online environment since March. We know that this has an unintentional impact on students' social and emotional well-being. They haven't seen their peers, they haven't seen some of their friends, they haven't had a chance to interact in an academic setting in quite a long time, which is really, really disheartening. We are going to make sure that we embed curriculum that deals with social and emotional learning into our current curriculum and come up with ways to make sure that we're assessing students' needs when it comes to social and emotional learning, make sure that they are okay and that they are getting what they need, even though we're still in this crazy COVID time of instruction. Special education. Another mandate by the state is to make sure that we are providing a free and appropriate public education for all students. That includes our students with special needs. That we need to have meaningful parent engagement regarding the services that the students require as part of their individual education plan, and that in all cases that we're still convening our committees for special education and assessing the needs of all of our students and providing the services that they need to be successful and to be on grade level with the rest of their peers when it comes to their academic performance as well. For some students who maybe require who have additional higher needs, we might have to consider bringing them into school more often than the 2 days a week in a hybrid model. But we'll certainly assess our ability to do that, and work with the committees on special education to get to a place where we're all comfortable that the students are getting what they need. Chronic absenteeism and attendance is another major concern. The question that the state has for us is how do we know that all of our students are in school every day? So they're saying that schools must develop a mechanism to collect and report daily teacher, student, they say engagement or attendance, but we're talking about attendance time every single day. So we have to come up with a more structured approach at all grade levels to ensure that students are present in their academics every day. Obviously, when they're in person, that is super easy. Are they in their seat or not? But when they're doing remote, whether it be fully remote or part of the remote component for hybrid learning, we need to make sure that we're doing something to capture accurate attendance. And if the student is marked absent or is absent for the day, we're going to continue to use those calls that you would normally get for those who have been in the district. You're going to continue to use those calls that we would normally get if your child is absent. For elementary, they usually get it that morning, and then for secondary, they usually get those calls the very next day. So we'll be conducting daily attendance every day for kids. The next couple slides is really going to talk about what information we received from the past two governor's news conferences, Governor Cuomo's news conferences, which have addressed education specifically. They will hopefully highlight some of the constraints and issues that we are going to have as we face reopening school, and will highlight the need, why we had to sort of take pause as well, and try and consider starting remote learning as we try and sort out some of the issues as it pertains to health screening. So on the 13th of July, the Governor Cuomo had announced that they have this formula. The formula would basically say that schools can reopen if the region that the school district is in, which is ours, is the Mid-Hudson region, is in phase 4, which the entire state is, so that's fine. And the daily infection rate remains below 5% using a 14-day average. Our infection rate, at last I looked, was somewhere around 1 or just slightly under 1%. So that certainly gives a double check on those boxes, and ultimately says that we can reopen. Schools will end up being closed if our region infection rate climbs greater than 9% using a 7-day average. So if that does happen in our region, the governor will ask that we close again. But we're obviously in a very good place as far as New York goes. Hopefully we stay that way and continue moving forward as we reopen our state in our schools. On the August 7th news conference, the governor came out and said all schools can open across the state, which is great. That's something that we were hoping to hear, but some of the other information that was shared came as a little bit of a surprise. So the next few slides, and I'm going to try and not try and have any kind of inflection that would suggest any kind of political bias. I'm just reading these quotes. These quotes were taken out of the New York State Governor's address. This link up here, there's a link up here, so when this presentation is made publicly, to be publicly accessible, you'll be able to click this link. I think it goes to Facebook, which is it's an ABC News 7 recording of the governor's address, which happened over the phone. It wasn't a video conference. But you can listen to the entire thing. It's about 40 minutes long or so. And the part about schools starts around 2 minutes and 30 seconds. But all the quotes from in here came from that recording, and you can listen to it yourself as well. So the governor starts off by acknowledging that all schools can open across the state, so long as they have an approved plan. We do have an approved plan. That there's significant level of anxiety and concern between parents and teachers. We certainly all know that. A couple comments about students and teachers don't want to come back to school. You can't really open school, but we definitely have a desire to try and make this work. He noted, he said, I want the districts to do two things. He meant three because he listed three. He wants us to post our remote learning plan. He wants us to post our remote learning plan on our website, separate from what our actual opening plan is. He wants us to post a testing plan. The testing plan has to do with what we're doing to health screen students. We're going to get and staff. We're going to get into that in a little bit. He wants us to talk about. He wants us to post a contact tracing plan. So he wants these three elements, these specific components of plans, posted to our website, and have at least three opportunities for parents to participate in a conference with the district about our plans in general. So that's what the point of this is we're having 15 conferences, 15 opportunities to make sure that everybody had the chance to join in, knowing that we have limited access to our online conferencing tools. So the district, the governor also says that we need to have at least one meeting with teachers and administrators to discuss their concerns about the plan of reopening. And he goes on to say one of the most interesting questions that came up, which really kind of made us stop and take pause, was when a reporter asked about what about asymptomatic people, whether it be students or staff. And the governor's response was, one of the top 5 questions I'm asked is, how do we prevent asymptomatic people from infecting other people in schools, similar to how people got infected in nursing homes? And the governor's response was, some school districts have a better answer on this than others. It is up to local district to come up with a plan. Yes, temperature taking is concerned. You test that child who has a temperature, but what about asymptomatic spread? How do you detect asymptomatic spread when the only way you can detect asymptomatic spread is when you get sick? He says, but that is a very good question, one that the local school districts have to answer. And I can tell you that that was a little bit of I would say that was a little bit of a surprise for us. We are not ready to answer that. We're educators. We are not healthcare providers. So far as I know, we're not being given any type of test kits. We certainly don't have a lab to test to process test kits. So we're not sure exactly what we're supposed to be doing with the whole idea of detecting asymptomatic positive COVID cases in our district. And what exactly that looks like. So we're kind of in a hold on that and going to be relying on our local Department of Health, who is currently working on a contact tracing plan that would be, we talk about a little bit, contact tracing plan that it's going to be uniform across the county. We have not heard what we can do about this particular constraint, but certainly that is a concern for us. He goes on to say that you need 2 things to open school, students and teachers. Students you cannot force back. He said, and then he says, you do not want to get into a legal battle with teachers. They cannot teach if they do not feel safe. You cannot order a teacher into a classroom and tell them to teach if they do not feel safe. I'm telling you, there's going to need to be significant discussions. He's implying the teachers, raise important issues, and they need to be comfortable. So knowing all that, we had to really just sort of assess where we were in terms of being able to ensure that teachers and staff and students and families all felt safe about coming to school. And we really couldn't answer that question about what to do about asymptomatic people. And so it was our decision at the time, and is the decision right now to open school with remote learning first. And we're going to go through what that looks like in just a moment. But just to also give a sense as to our size compared to the rest of the county, we are one of 13 school districts in Dutchess County. The smallest school district is Weewatuk, which is the northeast corner of Dutchess County. It has 653 students overall, compared to our school district has 10,645. So we're obviously the largest, Arlington the next, but still, significantly below 2,600 students below us in terms of number of students. And with size, a large size comes, a large amount of responsibility, a large amount of people. So we have to try and do our best to make sure that we have solid processes in place that are going to take into account everyone's social, emotional, physical well-being on a daily basis. If you were to, the superintendent wanted us to share that there's a number of districts in our region, and by region, I guess I would say, 4-county area, 5-county area. This is Orange County, Westchester County, Dutchess, Putnam, etc., Ulster, that highlights school districts that have a large population, and by large population, he's defining over 6,000 students. So anywhere from Monroe Woodbury with 6,400 to Newburgh, who has 11,500 students, is sort of highlighted what the plan is for those larger districts to start either with a phase-in virtual model or a hybrid model. Only White Plains, Clarkston, and Haverstraw are going to start out hybrid right out of the gate. And we and the rest of the schools that are large like us, they are going to we're all going to start with remote learning as well. So it's going to be interesting to observe how White Plains, Clarkstown, and Haverstraw do. We will hopefully learn a number of things from them and helping to understand what the impact will be when they go hybrid come September 1st, or so yeah, September 8th probably is when most of the world will. This slide is going to speak to the hybrid model, but before we go into the text this slide, I'm going to click this link, and all these links are going to be clickable in the presentation after it is made available online. This is going to show a timeline for how we're going to phase in hybrid learning from the remote schedule. Let me just get myself, actually, if I take myself off, I don't need to keep moving myself around. You'll still be able to see. This is our instructional delivery timeline. So all students are going to start with remote learning on the 10th. We're going to talk about the change in our calendar, which is going to be reviewed by the Board of Education at tonight's meeting, where originally we were thinking if all things were normal, students would have arrived to school on the 8th. But we're going to add in 2 more professional development days into our calendar and have the teachers who are already coming for professional development the week before. For 3 days, they're going to come in and do Tuesday, Wednesday as professional development days as well, and to start off school. We're going to talk about why we're going to and what we're going to have them do in a couple of slides from now. But basically, come the week of September 28th, and the 28th is technically a designated school holiday. So the 29th will be the first day that our K1 and 2 students will actually arrive to school for the start of in-person hybrid learning. And we're going to increase the number of students who are coming to school all the way down until we have everyone back in school. Hopefully, the schedule can change and shift a little bit, but hopefully by the end of October. It'll be important as we do this along the way, we stop and assess and evaluate our processes and procedures as they pertain to school safety and as they pertain to all the procedures we put in place for health checks and social distancing and the like. So as far as K2 goes, and you guys are the grade 2 group, you can look forward to having students begin hybrid learning on September 29th if you are in cohort A. Let me just get back to where I am here. Okay. And so the way that it's going to work is we're going to divide up all the students into 2 cohorts, A and B, based on last name. So students whose last name begins with an A through K will be cohort A, and L through Z will be cohort B. We took all of our enrolled students and we just added up all the first letters of all the last names, and this came out to be the most even group for most of the schools. This was the most even group for most of the schools for our district. Some schools maybe would have been okay A to L, but we couldn't have a junior high be A to L and an elementary be A to K and our high school be A to L. We needed families have told us many times that they want all the kids in their house going to school at the same exact time. So we're doing A to K across the board and L to Z across the board for the different cohorts, but exceptions will be made. Where if someone says, look, I have multiple last names underneath one household, underneath one roof, can I please move this student to cohort B from A or whatever you have to do? We will absolutely do that. We understand that there's unique circumstances and that we're going to work with families to ensure that we're doing whatever we can to make this as easy as possible. So with that in mind, this is how it's going to work when we go a hybrid model. Every Monday and Tuesday will be cohort A. Every Thursday and Friday will be cohort B for in-person learning. And every Wednesday, the buildings will be closed for deep cleaning for every week. So there are a number, actually, you know what? Yeah, so there are a number of questions that were asked in a survey that the parents, that you guys all, our community have all filled out, and we're very grateful for all the responses that we got back. These are the categories that were addressed in the surveys and all the questions. And so what we did was we grabbed all the information back from those surveys and we put them into we consolidated them and collapsed them and tried to take out all the duplicates and found some of the more commonly asked questions. And in the next several slides, we'll be doing our best to answer most of those questions. And the first category that we're going to talk about is just teaching and learning. There's a lot of questions about remote learning, and I am going to turn over that portion of the presentation to Dr. Cardwell.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for taking the time to participate in this presentation. So the district has been working diligently with various stakeholders, from listening to parents and instructional staff on developing effective remote learning opportunities, either during a full remote or a hybrid model.
Dr. Cardwell, I just saw someone just post that they couldn't hear you. I'm going to mute my mic because maybe I'm disrupting it. I'm going to ask that, Michelle, you try again and then see if everyone can hear you okay.
All right, everyone, this will be part two, take two. Hopefully you are able to hear me at this time. I am also speaking a little bit louder. I do see that someone cannot hear me. If you can hear me, can you also indicate that in the chat as well? Okay, so some people can hear, so I'm going to continue, and I will just continue to speak louder. I will take Mr. Lokima's advice and just speak loud. So we are working with our stakeholders to ensure high quality remote learning instruction for our full remote model as well as our hybrid model. We also know that there are pockets of our student population that will require and or need more frequently based in-person instruction. Specifically, our early grades are K to 2. We do know our 5, 6, 7-year-olds will struggle with remote learning and need a lot of support in logging in. And the teachers and the principals are working on plans and will reach out to the parents and the students as we get closer to the start of the school year. We know our students with disabilities or students with the highest needs are also in need of coming in some additional days, as well as our English language learners. So we're really looking at how can we provide more support to those students that need the additional in-person time while we phase in all of our students to a hybrid model. So as we started, all of our students will begin the school year in September with full remote learning, and then we will continue to phase in the hybrid model towards the end of September, beginning of October. We will be prepared to provide specific information on scheduling and the resources regarding remote instruction to families prior to the start of the school year. Teachers will reach out to students via their Google emails and to the parents through the emails that are on file or by telephone pertaining to the logging in instruction. Once again, we are paying very close attention to those early grades and coming up with various ways to support families in assisting their children with remote instruction at the beginning of the school year. Parent workshops will also be scheduled to provide information to parents on the virtual resources the students will be using. We will also collect information from families regarding access to technology and connectivity via parent survey, and Mr. Lokima will touch upon that in greater detail towards the latter end of the presentation. And also details specific to a school, such as a class or a teacher. These questions should be addressed specifically to the building principal or the assistant principal or the teacher once that is known. I believe within the next couple of weeks, you will be hearing much more about the start of school and the schedules that will be provided. We have also taken a strong look at what remote learning will look like. The State Education Department did state that we needed to provide significant synchronous learning time as well as asynchronous activities. We do know that synchronous, which is real time when the teacher is on live with the students, that can be scheduled live instruction through a video conference. It could be phone calls. It could be live lessons and or demonstrations that the teacher is facilitating. There will also be opportunities for students to learn synchronously that students are working at their individual pace. This is usually independent work assignments, practice, independent reading and writing, any research that the students are doing, discussion boards through the Google Classroom, and or pre-recorded presentations. And so additional information will be provided to you and the students on when synchronous times and how often synchronous times will be scheduled. The district is continuing to work collaboratively with various stakeholders to create these learning opportunities. We are looking at best practices. We're listening to the feedback that we have received from our community. We also had synchronous and asynchronous instruction take place during our summer school programs. We're very excited at the learning that took place during that time, and we are learning from the successes that we have had during those two summer programs as well. We are committed to ensure norms, uniformity, consistency, and standardization amongst the grades are in place for both the virtual remote learning as well as the hybrid models. As we stated before, we value the importance of including regular and substantive teacher-to-student engagement throughout the remote learning process. And students will be provided with specific times which they will be expected to join live instruction either daily or weekly, depending upon the subject. If there are scheduling conflicts that come up with students and families, we will work on them individually, addressing each of those unique circumstances. Specific information on student schedules will be expected to follow during remote schedules will be provided within the next week or so. So if a student is expected to be online at a specific time with a specific teacher, that information will be sent out prior to the start of school. We are also finalizing details regarding the scheduling of live instruction. These conversations are in the final stages with the Wappingers Congress of Teachers, as well as the Wappingers Administrative Association. We are also finalizing the grading procedures that will be used at both the elementary and secondary levels. We will share this with you as soon as possible, but also for secondary level, all of the processes that we are discussing with grading, we are making sure that the students' GPA and ranking would not be negatively impacted. So we are taking all of your concerns into consideration. As Mr. Lokema mentioned, we are recommending 5 superintendent's conference days instead of the originally 3 that was planned. And this is to make sure that we are fully supporting our staff and providing our staff with the knowledge that they need to provide high quality virtual instruction, as well as getting our schools and our classrooms ready for hybrid learning. Some of the topics for professional development around health and safety include setting up classrooms and designing instruction to adhere with the Department of Health and CDC guidelines. How do you open classrooms in a virtual remote learning environment? Reviewing all guidelines in educational settings in all different classes, whether it's physical education or music or in the cafeteria, and preparing routines and structures for fire safety drill following the guidelines. It's important that all of our staff feel comfortable in case of an emergency, what they are expected to do and how they're expected to communicate these expectations to the students. In addition, we will be providing a lot of professional development on teaching and learning and social and emotional learning. We will be discussing those norms to ensure consistency and making sure the expectations for learning are understood. Definitely discussing formative assessments in both the remote and the hybrid models, and to plan for small group instruction. Teaching strategies that teachers should use or can use during the remote model, supporting student learning, setting up student expectations and supporting student learning through a hybrid model. So you can see we are really looking at all aspects of teaching and learning and social and emotional learning to support the students throughout this time. One other area that received a lot of questions is the athletic and extracurricular activities. So as of now, the New York State Public High School Athletic Association, in August 14th, they put out a statement saying that they pushed the start of the fall sports season back. So it is now scheduled to start September 21st instead of August. So we're waiting for another update to come out to see if they will allow for sports to occur in the fall season. But as of now, it is scheduled to start September 21st. However, the fall regional and state championships events have been canceled. We know that there are additional guidelines for athletics and extracurricular activities, and we will make sure that all of our teachers and instructional staff are aware of the requirements, really considering the social distancing guidelines. When is it necessary to keep the 6 foot versus the 12 feet of social distancing, when PPE usage is required, and definitely the cleaning and disinfection of the necessary areas. We do understand and we value that extracurricular activities have in developing well-rounded students. We will slowly phase in extracurricular activities. Each activity will be reviewed by the building administration in consultation with district administration to determine if and when the activity will resume in person or remotely. As of now, and this is definitely subject to change, concerts and theater productions tentatively will not be held during the first semester, that's September to January. A decision to allow for concerts and theater productions to be held in the second semester will be made later on as we continue to review the situation. So yes, there will be music, band, chorus, and orchestra. However, they will look a little differently. Depending upon the school, the locations of these activities may vary because we need to take into consideration the guidelines that we have for social distancing. Most schools can place their ensembles in the auditorium or the cafeteria. We will have seating charts and or stickers indicating where students can sit and or stand. Students would definitely face the same way. There would be places that would be marked for students. No students will need to share music or instruments or stands. And we can make sure that any string or percussion ensembles can spread out on stage or music classrooms accordingly. So we're really taking careful planning to make sure we are meeting all guidelines. So there are several recommendations that need to be followed to ensure quality physical education during this time. We know that physical distancing is essential during physical education. There will be visual markings to prompt students to maintain the physical distancing. Students will be outside for physical education when possible and weather permitting. Our physical education teachers will receive, and they have already been, many of them have already been discussing different lessons and activities that are appropriate for inside activities to maintain social distancing. Playgrounds should be clean per CDC guidance, and all those that are involved in that have either received professional development in it or will continue. Some areas we do not need to clean, or it is not recommended to be cleaned, such as a ground cover, such as mulch and sand. The sidewalks and roads will not be disinfected, but like grab bars and railings will be cleaned routinely. Darren, I'm going to refer this back to you, and I will go back on mute.
Okay, thank you, Michelle. All right, so again, following along all the different categories that were in the survey, the next one that came up just alphabetically is child nutrition. Questions about whether or not kids can bring lunch to school. Kids can bring their own lunch to school. In especially our K-6 buildings, where we're talking about really minimizing the use of cafeteria. We're talking about minimizing the use of cafeteria across all our grades, but K-6 lends itself a little more easily to have meals being brought to the classroom and eaten in the classroom. Students will be allowed to bring their lunch to school, and if there's issues of food allergies, every building is going to have to make some local decisions as to what they feel is best in terms of where students who have food allergies might be able to eat if the rest of the class is eating in the classroom. Normally, you might have a peanut table or an allergy table in the cafeteria. How does that look when you do classroom eating? We're going to have to make sure we're careful that those students don't have exposure to allergens that will cause them, any kind of discomfort. So that will be decided at the local building level. As far as the menus go, every day there'll be a hot lunch or a cold lunch, one option only. There will be no a la carte. You can't say, I want, I'm just going to have the chicken nuggets today. It's just going to be one thing that's made, and it'll all be served in a grab and go type fashion, whether it be bagged up or packaged up in a certain way that it could just be simply handed out and minimal contact, if you will. Milk will be only offering. Someone did ask about, for any kind of lactose intolerance or milk allergies. I'm going to have to double check on what that is and maybe update the slide presentation because it's a good question. Certainly there'll be water available, but I'm not sure what other options will be available besides milk. But this goes both for breakfast and lunch. It's all going to be grab and go. No additional snacks or novelty, no ice creams and cookies or chips or stuff like that. None of those novelty items. We're just going to really minimize the amount of touches that kids can have in the lunch line, but we're also having carts available to bring lunches to classrooms as necessary, depending on what the schedule is. For days when students are on remote learning, whether it be 100% remote or during the hybrid schedule, if you've been deemed free and reduced lunch eligible, you will qualify for a grab and go at a curbside pickup. So you'll be able to come and get a free lunch or reduced price lunch at the grab and go, and more information for that will follow. So that's we're definitely serving lunch every day that there is a school, which is something we're used to doing and something we're going to continue to do in this climate. There was a section on communication, family, and community engagement. There was a number of different, or like a variety of questions there. So we're going to answer the four most common. Schedules will be available in Parent Portal. So as second grade parents, if you're new to Parent Portal, if you're new to the district, welcome to Wappingers. Sorry I was under these circumstances, but you can go to our website, wappingerschools.org. There's a section at the top that says Parent, go to Parent. And then on Parent, the first link under Parent that shows up should be the Parent Portal information. So all sorts of information, how to get an account, reset your password, all that. Visit our website. Once schedules are available, we will notify everyone via phone, email, or text that you're ready for review. You'll be able to log in. And on the elementary perspective, you would just see which homeroom teacher you have right on the home screen that shows a picture of your student. Over on the right-hand side, it'll say HR teacher and the teacher's name. So that's how you'll be able to see who your homeroom teacher is for the elementary grades. There'll be another Chromebook request form going out, if not tomorrow, then Wednesday. It's going to be a request form. We have about 1,000 Chromebooks left that we're pulling from schools. So, we've loaned out a whole bunch from the spring, and we only collected the ones back where students graduated or exited the district. So we don't have that many. We certainly will have very few in school. Um, the ones that we have in school, all the ones that we have for daily instruction in school are the ones that are being loaned out. So it's going to be an imbalance when we're in school. There's going to be very few computers to use. But we have to do something to support remote learning. So it'll be another request form that goes out for that. And then we'll have a pickup for the community to do there. Once your request form has been approved, we'll send out another communication letting you know when and where you can pick up the device. Online meet and greet opportunities will be created for principals, faculty, and staff to meet with parents and students throughout the month of September. This will be in addition to the synchronous learning opportunities. And another question was about surveys. So survey results from a parent forum will be posted on our website once the survey is closed. So that'll probably towards the end of this week. Health and safety. There's a lot of questions on health and safety. First group of them was about airflow. Typically, our ventilation system draws in 10% of fresh air from outside at any given time. This is what it's always typically done. Our facilities department will increase this fresh air intake to 20 to 30% while the weather stays seasonably comfortable, as well as we'll have windows open as well. But obviously, we don't want to bring in so much cold air that we can't even heat the building. So we got to be careful with the air that we bring in, and we're going to keep it balanced as best we can to keep as much fresh air coming in. Restroom cleaning, there'll be higher frequency of restroom cleaning throughout the day. We'll have to hire additional custodial staff to make sure this happens. General cleaning, Wednesday is a deep cleaning day, so that'll be through the whole school. But in addition, the district did buy disinfecting machines, which we're going to utilize on a daily basis. These machines will spray a mist of disinfectant on all surfaces. These machines have become very popular for schools, and we use this on our buses as well. Cleaning between class periods. One of the reasons why too, we have a lot of questions about what do we do at the high school level when students change classes between every period and they don't follow each other as a group. The high school schedule is very mixed. Ninth graders and 10th graders are going to be taking a social studies class together, and et cetera, and so forth. We don't have a really good answer for how we can. There isn't currently enough product for us to even offer putting wipes in every single classroom, so enough of a supply that students can wipe down their own desks every time they come back into the class. So we're going to see how other schools are accomplishing this. We're going to see what we can do. That is a logistical nightmare for us to try and clean classes between every period at this point. So we're going to have to come up with something creative because you have 7 class changes a day over the 8 periods, and that's going to be hard to keep up with. But more to come on that. Contact tracing. We touched about this a little bit earlier. The Dutchess County Department of Behavioral and Community Health, which we generally refer to as the Dutchess County Department of Health, is working with our county districts to come up with a unified plan for contact tracing, which is good. We're looking forward to seeing what that plan entails, and we'll share that with the community as soon as we can. Regarding asymptomatic cases, we are a little bit at a loss here. We're not sure what to do, how to test for that. We're not. Oh, I said I was breaking up. Hopefully this is better. We're not sure what to do with asymptomatic cases, but we're waiting for further guidance on that. Audio is incoherent. Can I get a confirmation that you guys can hear me okay? I can hear. Yes. Okay. All right. I'm going to keep going. Okay. Symptomatic cases, obviously, we'll have to follow the protocols outlined in our plan. There's going to be isolation room. There's going to have to be a need for parents to pick up, et cetera, and so forth. It's all documented in our plan. I'm kind of running a little low on time, so I definitely want to I'm going to keep on going. Daily health screening. When we are doing in-person instruction, we're going to use this online application called Easy Screen. It'll be an app that you find in the App Store as well as an online website version. It's not up and running yet, but school districts besides us have been using this for years for dealing with concussion protocol screening for student athletes. So they're definitely used to working with schools. They're just adapting their application for COVID-19 daily health screening. So it's actually the tool itself looks reasonable in terms of being able to fill out a form every day. It's probably 30 seconds. Check some boxes and making sure that yes, you your temperature check and you're affirming some other statements. So we would expect that would be done every day for staff and students. Additional risk mitigation factors will be hand sanitizing stations available in every hallway of every school. Masks will be available for everyone who needs one throughout the day. That would including whether or not they dropped theirs, soiled theirs, etc., or just forgot it. Locks will be installed on water fountain bubblers. The bubblers is just a button you push where that stream of water comes out. We're going to put a lock on those, but the water fountains themselves, most of them have bottle fill stations, so the bottle fillers will still work, but the part that we actually would touch will be locked and closed off. We're going to keep windows open to the greatest extent possible. We're going to have extra soap dispensers in every restroom, which is sometimes it's hard because sometimes the students rip them off the wall. So we're going to try and make sure we install more. We're going to disable the electronic hand dryers in the restrooms because we're being told that could be a health risk with it blowing germs around. Nursing staff will have extra PPE available, the personal protective equipment. Kitchen and greeter stations will have those clear shields, face shields, just so you'll know that they'll be there for extra protection. We talked about ventilation monitoring. We're going to have students wearing lanyards and photo IDs, especially with all the masks they have on. We're going to start that off with the high school, see how that goes. Remove any soft surfaces that are difficult to disinfect, such as area rugs or fabric chairs. Social distancing, how we're going to maintain social distancing. We're going to take we have classrooms that vary in sizes. We can have a 600 square foot classroom, we can have a 1,000 square foot classroom, and anything in between. We're going to take the length and the depth of the length and the width of those rooms, take out any square footage that is taken up by furnishings, maybe remove furniture or extra stuff that might be a little bit cluttered in the classroom to make room for as many students as possible. But we're going to make sure everyone in that room, including the teacher and any other adult, has at least 44 square feet per person. So students have their personal space with a 6-foot perimeter plus additional 3 feet of personal space within there in the classroom. So that's the number we're using in terms of the math on how we're figuring out how many kids can get into a class. And that might make room for anywhere from 10, depending on the classroom physical size, from 10 to 16 students is what I'm being told. So, but obviously everyone will have to measure that themselves. Let's see, more on that for subjects that require, you have choral ensembles, wind instruments, doing aerobic activity in the gym, etc. If we're not outside, will all require social distancing of 12 feet, not 6 feet. So we have to take into account for that. Wherever possible, we're going to bring in art and music into the classroom. That'll be especially helpful in the K-6 buildings to avoid traveling students to commonly used areas. And any kind of support staff will be required to wear proper face coverings to the greatest. Oh, sorry. Students, teachers, and support staff will be required to wear proper face coverings to the greatest extent possible. So we're basically saying we're going to have kids wear masks like almost the entire day. And I say almost because there's going to be some times where they can't. They're eating, or there's some other scheduled break when it's recommended that we have breaks for students to wear masks, which might end up taking place outside. But we're going to do our best to make sure that everyone's wearing their mask just about the entire day. Social emotional learning was another category. We had our staff came up with this list that tends to address most of the questions submitted in this category. We're going to provide training to our staff. We're going to provide we're going to purchase a program and different programs for our schools that don't have one or that have not had this new one that's been going around with the Positivity Project, which has curriculum already built in around social emotional learning. And that's going to be helpful. We're going to have a series of workshops throughout the school year for families and students to address common concerns. The teachers will begin the school year focusing on community building and learning opportunities. We know that people's lives have been disrupted so much, and that that the students' ability to socialize with their friends have been impaired. That some students might are just sort of feeling out of touch with their peers. We know that it's very important that we do everything we can to make sure that these kids are coming back as well acclimated as possible after such a long break from school, and we're going to make that a focus of in many different ways. Special education is a big category. I'm going to go through this quickly only because we're going to schedule a separate special education parent forum. But basically, we're going to continue, when schools officially reopen on the 10th, we're going to continue our assessment and evaluation process. We'll hold meetings virtually as much as possible, in person when it's necessary to do so. We're going to have IEP goals written to encompass the entire school year, whether it be virtual learning, and a way for us to pivot on those goals from one modality to the other as necessary. Because we know that education looks different online, and it's even more difficult for our students with special needs to be accommodated in a remote learning environment. But we're going to make sure that we do our best to provide the best experience that we can. We did learn a few things in terms of best practices as we did an extended school year program for summer school. We did that all online this year. So I'm going to take some of the best practices learned during that. Fairly successful time program for extended school year and apply that to everyday classroom use as well. So I'm just going to go through this. I'm just going to speed this up for just a moment. Okay, so again, we're going to use the experiences in our remote learning as well. Whenever possible, we're going to have synchronous instruction happening during our remote related services, whether it be speech, OT, PT, etc. We're going to do our best to provide synchronous instruction during those virtual times. And when necessary, we'll obviously have to bring in staff and students to accommodate the students' learning needs. If it's something beyond the regular hybrid schedule, we're going to have to do our best to accommodate that. So more to come on that in the parent forum for special education. Similar, ENL students is another population of students who have higher needs. These are our English language learners. They will continue to receive as much intervention as possible, differentiated instruction, and early intervention measures are going to have to continue in the remote learning scenario. This is not it's not easy to do. It's hard work when everyone's in person. It's even harder when it's remote. But we're going to do our best to make sure that we're identifying students who are not on grade level with their peers and assigning a different academic and additional academic support to have these students receive extra instruction and support to hopefully get them back up to the level that their peers are at within their grade level. Transportation, this is the last category that we'll talk about today before I can jump out and maybe hit a couple of questions you have from the chat. How are we going to provide ventilation and social distancing on the bus? It's going to be tricky. It's not going to be easy. The Department of Health and State Education Department is saying that we should just open the windows and the roof vents as much as possible. We're going to limit the bus routes to 22 students on a large vehicle, which is 1 student per seat. We can have siblings of one house from the same household sit in the same seat together, so that number might increase slightly. But it'll be interesting to see how many people actually. It'll be interesting to see how many people actually are able to, who actually drive their children to school. Our survey results show about 50% of people are intending to drive their students to school. So that might make only a quarter of the students. Half the kids come every day. Half those kids get driven in. Only 25% of our students might take the bus. Private and parochial schools will receive transportation every single day that they are open as needed. It's a legal obligation to provide that. So our private and parochial schools will get a bus every day if they're open every day. Why do you have limits to students if they wear masks? Both the state education department and why do we have limits in number of kids on a bus? I think the New York State Education Department, Department of Health states that students must be socially distanced on the bus and wear a mask. So it's just nothing we can do about that. Other kids who are medically unable to wear a mask will be isolated further on the bus and have a true 6 feet of social distancing at least between them and other people on the bus. If there are after school activities are a big what if. We don't know what after school activities will be held, and we don't know what after school activities will be held in person. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with sports. Obviously, sports is a big thing. So if sports actually happen in September, then we'll have to deal with that. Otherwise, at this point, the late bus option is on hold and will be reviewed as we know more information about what activities might take place. If you drive your kids to school but want the option, send them on the bus every other day, any given day, any random day. Can you? Yes, you can. We're going to make the routes as if the students are going on the bus. So that bus stop will be there every day for you if you need it. Are students taking school bus transportation getting their temperature screens when they arrive at school? So originally, the state education department guidance document said that districts are encouraged to have parents and households, guardians take those screenings at home before they get on the bus. Obviously, if the governor expects the district to have some sort of plan for testing for asymptomatic people, that might change a little bit. But right now, what we're saying is that everyone's going to do their health checks at home, and then we're going to and then get on the bus, and then we'll just do our normal protocols if someone is appearing ill when they get at school or while they're in school. If we drive to school with a protocol for pickup and drop off regarding social distancing, fall arrival and dismissal, people will be wearing masks and being as separate as possible, but it's going to be challenging depending on how many kids are coming in at one time. Traffic is going to be an issue, so especially at schools with smaller parking lots, thinking like Fishkill Elementary, it's hard enough on a regular day to even come in and park or have a bus loop. So it's going to be very difficult and very challenging to see what the traffic patterns are going to look like. We can't anticipate it, but we know that we'll probably have to make adjustments as we go, and we'll just have to just ask for patience in the first day or two to figure out what the traffic patterns actually look like. Strict consequences for kids who don't follow the rules, follow social distancing rules, or wear a mask on the bus. We have monitors. There won't be monitors. There's no way we can hire enough monitors. We need like 150. We have 150 buses out at a given time. So unfortunately, that's not going to be the case. Camera checks will be conducted on a rotating schedule. There's cameras on every bus, so we're going to check cameras randomly and spot check them to see how procedures are working. We're going to rely on the drivers to do what they always do, handle matters on the vehicle. And if there's an issue that they can't deal with or an issue that they need to escalate, we're going to have that assigned. We'll have the driver report that to the building level principal, and we'll go from there. But yes, we will take it very seriously. If you're going by last names, how long will kids be on the bus? I anticipate we're running the same route. It's just going to be less kids on it. So it might be the same exact bus route you're normally used to having every year. I mean, it does change every year slightly, but it's possible that the bus routes will be just as long or just as short as they've always been, possibly even a little bit shorter if they don't have to do a full stop waiting for every kid to get on the bus at every stop, because we're going to do a fraction of the stops every day. All right, so that is the end of the actual presentation itself. I hope that answered a number of questions. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm going to jump over to the document that is going to show what the Q&A was from this session. And I'm going to scroll down and just see what there are. See if I can just hit a couple in the next couple of minutes. Why is it that the younger grades start the hybrid first, not the older grades? You know, we recognize the need that the younger students definitely need to be in front of. They're the hardest. The students who are younger probably have the hardest time learning remotely and the hardest time acclimating remotely, and to some degree, sometimes they follow the directions the best too. So we're going to get the younger students in first and just move our way up, and we're going to pause every week and double check to see that our processes and procedures will work, and see if we can get more students engaged in school with hybrid models as quick as possible. If a student had a cousin in a different cohort, is there possibly change? You can change cohorts. Make any requests you can with your building principal, and we can change the cohorts as needed. We definitely want to be respectful of unique situations within families. Time schedule before in-person. When will we be informed of the time schedule for both in-person and remote learning? The schedules will be out by the end of the month, and we'll be able to anticipate what we are going to share or be able to share in terms of what that schedule will look like. The schedule might look totally different at the high school than it does at the elementaries, but we're anticipating, again, as much synchronous time as possible and as much face-to-face time as possible every single day. Will hybrid learning alternate alphabetically each week? No, it would always be Monday, Tuesday, always be Thursday, Friday, depending on the cohort. It'd be too hard to probably keep track of it. Let's see, if a second grader and a ninth grader going to school, same last name, will they leave together? It's going to be the same school schedule. The elementary schedule, 8:30 till 3:30, and the high school schedule, 7:30 till 2:20, whatever the actual schedule is. We're going to run the same schedules. Nothing's going to be staggered. We're going to keep the same school schedules for in-person learning. Do we have any special procedure or guideline to assign room teachers? Students may be more comfortable with the same teacher last year. I don't. Some schools might loop. They call it looping, where you have a second grade teacher, for example, follow their class up to third grade. I don't have any numbers on that in terms of who is looping and who is not. How will the school ensure that all children wear a mask when not social distancing? We're all going to have to do our best. Will they leave their classroom? Will they leave their classroom during the day? We're going to have breaks. We're going to have to see how it goes. I think that there's going to definitely be some trial and error. Things that we think are a good idea now might look a little different when we put it to practice on the day they come in. Obviously, on good weather days, we're going to get them outside for the elementary kids, and I think that's who this is referring to, and get them active and running around the playground a little bit to blow off some steam and to take a break from wearing their mask, and obviously maintaining social distancing while they're out there. So yes, we're going to have them wear their masks as much as possible. That's another question. IEP needs being met remotely. We're going to have to work with the CSE on that. If something is not right, we're going to have to convene and make adjustments. More to come at the special education meeting. Is it true that the school can remove my child from classes and take her without my consent to a testing site? No, I don't know anything about that. There's nothing about testing outside of school or anything like that. I mean, if your child is leaving school, it's going to be with you or on a school bus because it's their scheduled arrival or departure time. What's going to happen in October that is safe to go back? Well, we're gonna see. I mean, you never know. Come the end of September, you know, then we all might be looking at a totally different reality than what we are right now. So we're all in this together, and we're gonna do the best we can to assess the situation and not put anyone in harm's way. Just going through a couple. I'm gonna do just maybe two more. Will remote learning this year be any better than remote learning they received the end of last year? Yes, we hope so. We hope that it's consistent. We hope that the synchronous pieces are going to be a lot more, you know, are going to be well received, and that people are going to find that the face-to-face instruction time that they have via remote learning is going to actually, you know, meet the needs of our learners at their grade level. And let me just, there's a lot of questions here. We're going to get the answers to these questions posted on our website in the next 2 to 3 days. Is there any physical study material like textbooks or workbooks to be distributed to balance study and screen time? That's a great question. I don't have an answer for that just yet. How do we get textbooks to students when they don't start school until October is I guess what I'm saying, to physically pick them up themselves. That's a great question. We'll have to definitely get a good answer for that on that one. I think that's it for now, Michelle. I know we're out of time. Do you have anything you want to add?
I just want to thank everyone for participating on this call. Also, thank you for putting in your questions in the chat and the Q&A section. We will make sure that we respond to these questions in a timely fashion. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Michelle. I'm going to stop the recording now.